And we're live.
Happy Monday, everyone. We're so glad you're here. It's whether you're live or you're watching us on recording. I'm Candace May, and this is Mary Denise, and we're bringing you Unshackle Your Voice so you can be seen and heard with confidence. It's hard to believe this is our 8th episode, our 8th week meeting with you every week. I'm so excited. I'm sure you're excited too, Mary Denise.
Absolutely.
Tonight, we're going to talk about the value of character, and Mary Denise is going to introduce us to the 7 levels of character. So we're, again, Mary Denise and Candace May, your guides for framing your life, digging the gold from your past, and designing the future of your design. Unshackle your voice so you can be seen and heard with confidence.
Yes, we want everybody to be able to unshackle their voice and stop living under the burden of all the past things. I'm Mary Denise, founder of Mitchell Leadership Services and Consulting. I'm a boutique, woman-owned consulting and coaching firm based in the Phoenix area, and I work with clients in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors. I basically primarily help people take their next steps after workplace bullying because that is such a big issue in this world. Because I believe that all people deserve dignity and respect, the chance to showcase their talents and gifts, contribute to their environment, and most importantly, work and live in a hostile-free environment.
Yay. And I'm Candace May, owner of Candace May Training and Services. I offer consulting, virtual training, performance coaching, operational analysis for changing times. And the focus areas that I work in are communication, collaboration, coaching employees, building workplace trust and safety, anti-bullying, leadership development, and operational analysis.
Outstanding. And see, besides the workplace trust and safety and the anti-bullying, what brings Candace May and I together is our shared interest as certified speakers, trainers, and coaches with the John Maxwell team. We're actually executive directors with the John Maxwell team, and that is an amazing thing for us. We're also empowered mentoring life guides and certified DISC human behavior analyst. So I'm going to kind of lay the framework for what you can expect for the next 30 or 40 minutes. And that is to just let you know that we're going to give you everything that we can. We're going to give you ideas that you can implement right now when you get off this show to better understand your character. But if you want to go deeper into the conversation, always the message Candace May or myself, and we will be more than happy to sit down and talk with you.
Absolutely.
So this was my idea tonight to talk about character in 7 levels. So Mark Twain once observed that if a cat sits on a hot stove, it's not going to sit on the hot stove again. Matter of fact, it's not going to sit on a coal stove either. And that's because the cat thinks that the stoves are evil. And see, the correlation is that we are a lot like that cat. When we experience something distasteful or even traumatic, right, we tend to shy away from ever doing whatever it was that was distasteful to us. Throughout life, we need you to be careful not to overreact to painful experiences, and failures, embarrassing moments, and hurtful events can have an inordinate impact on our lives and dissuade us from jumping on the stove again. So if we haven't dealt with the emotions of what happened to us, we're not going to get on that stove ever again.
That's very true. You know, that stove can be really comforting to the cat in the summer. It could be nice and cool, but
in the winter,
get on it. So we all have our hot stove experiences, don't we? I know I do. I've had thoughts of that subtly creep into my mind about having fun. I've gone on some the last big trip I took for a vacation was in 2009. Yeah, 2008, 9. And I got back, I guess 2008, I got back and there was a big catastrophe. And I've gone to the ocean and there was a calamity. And so there's this sense when I go to have fun, like, what's the shoe going to drop? What's the next thing that's going to happen? So I'm always hesitant, and I put so much time into marriage or so forth. And when it didn't work out, I'm hesitant. I want a relationship, but do I really want a relationship? Because it could bring a lot of pain. It could be a lot of problems. So it's something we all feel, real roadblocks that come from prior situations. Mm-hmm. Here's the key. Now that I know that these are roadblocks for me. I can be aware of the thoughts that are creeping in that want me to hide and want me to not embrace the fun and the partnerships, because it's a process of overcoming. And I'm determined that I'm going to have fun again, and I'm going to have another relationship again, and life's going to move on, and I'm not going to let it hold me back and be resentful.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the things that I shied away from myself was being able to go camping, right? So, funny story, when I was 18, I took my first camping trip ever, like ever. I was newly married. It was summer. We were living in Colorado. We went to Pikes Peak and we decided we were going to camp there. Now, mind you, I was very pregnant with my first child, and the spot that we picked was absolutely beautiful. But here's the problem. It was a pup tent. Yeah, I didn't know any better because I didn't know what camping was. But my then husband, he knew all about camping because he was a soldier and they went camping all the time, but they used the pup tent and it's just for one person. So you can imagine how uncomfortable it was. And I was like just so uncomfortable. And then it started raining. So, your head's sticking out, your feet are sticking out from this tent. You're like, seriously? So we ended up sleeping in the car for the rest of the night. And I was not a happy camper. And after that, I very seldom ever go camping. And if I do go camping, I have to have the best of everything, like the big roomy tent, the porta potty, the cooking utensils. Like I have to have the whole thing, because otherwise I can't do it, because I get anxiety when I know that I'm going to go camping. And then some of the other things that we shy away from whenever we've experienced something, it could be going to, getting accepted in school. If you don't get accepted, you might think, yeah, no, that's okay, never mind. If they didn't want me, nobody's going to want me. So why pursue a higher education? And another thing, and I know this has happened with quite a few people that I've spoken with through the years, is ever going to a concert or a movie theater or anything where a shooting happened. And I know we had a situation in our own family where we experienced that, and it was very difficult. I mean, it's still difficult for my daughter to think about that event, let alone go by the place where it happened. Thankfully, we don't live there anymore, so she doesn't have to see it. But it can be very traumatic, and you don't want to do anything. And so, depending on the severity of the experience, we just say, "Oh, we're never doing that again. I'm never going to do it again." So we become that cat. We're like, "We're good."
Right. That happens. I agree with you on that.
So let's see. So let's talk about what character is. Let me see if I have any comments in here. Okay, there's no comments. Okay. So what is character? So when you look at the definition of character, it's all about the mental and moral qualities, right, that are unique to a person. And one of the things that it could be, it could be it could be the way you carry yourself. It could be your integrity. It could be any one of those things, and your character determines the success in any area of your life. But here's the deal. Character is the real you. It's who you are when you wake up in the morning, when you're walking around your house, when you're going out in public. It's who you are. It's what you think and what you believe. And I'll give you an example. Remember a couple months ago, Candace May, there was an article about a Navy officer. I believe, yeah, it was a Navy officer that got caught streaming live his conversation with his wife about the African Americans that worked in his office. When a person goes to that extent to speak like that in their home, that is their character, because that means that's how they really think. So it's all about you. It's the real you. And I've had people ask me, but Mary, what's the difference between character and reputation? Well, character is much more than reputation. Reputation is only what others see and think about you, whereas your character is who you really are, even when no one is watching. And I think for me, that's a big sticking point for me. I think that, we wear so many masks in life that we forget sometimes where we're at. So some of the traits that you can look at, some are positive and stronger, some of them are weaker. And there's nothing wrong with the weaker ones unless you allow it to fester and grow into something bad. So someone with a strong character of truthfulness is more likely to tell the truth in a situation, report accurate facts, than someone who is what I like to call shady. So Someone with a strong character of endurance keeps going and they get tough because of it. But someone with not so strong endurance, they give up easily. So remember, there's no single list of character traits. There's so many. I mean, so many. You've got honesty, dependability, loyalty, enthusiasm, but then you've got all the little sub elements that go in between that. So character is about how we think, and some of us spend countless hours regretting the past. We regret the past. We worry about the future, and we worry about what we should be doing. What we should be doing, rather, is living in the moment and enjoying the present. And the key to this is emotion.
Enjoy the present. That's it's a gift, right? The present.
Mm-hmm.
Often we're focused on the past, or we're focused on the future, or we're really not in the present moment. But you say it's all about emotion. I think it's a big key of that is about awareness. Emotion ties into it, but it's about being aware of how we're habitually moving through life. Sometimes there's smaller situations, we become habitual, and we are creatures of habit. And yes, while character may be about what we think changes, right? We have belief systems that aren't actually true. So your character can evolve, right? I would say yes. And that's the goal, that we're stretching you here and hopefully introducing you to some topics that will be able to help you become aware of all that we're doing. We can tell we're becoming smaller sometimes because of how our emotions feel. There's certain situations where we cut ourselves up and we shut down our joy. So you can be being in a moment and who you are, and you hit a capacity of wanting to be something bigger and enjoy something, but all of a sudden you start doubting yourself and you become much smaller, right? So that it is a sense of a character, but we hit these upper limits of what we can do and not do in our worth. And Pema Chodron is a spiritual leader who said, one of the deepest habitual patterns is having the feeling that the present moment is not good enough. Do you ever feel that? You said it's about present. And sometimes we just think we need more. And the present moment is enough. Really, it is enough. It's more than enough. The present moment is where our manifesting power is to be creative and to make things happen. That deep sense of peace that we all strive for happens when we're in the moment, not when we're worrying about the past or planning for the future, but when we're right in the moment, enjoying the laughter of the moment. And it's the seeking mind that always gets us dwelling into the future. And I need to do more, I need to be more. And it's always asking what's next. And it's the grasping mind that's always trying to hold on to what just happened. Oh, I don't want to let that person go. I need this relationship, right? And that keeps us out of the present moment. So it's important that we understand both the seeking mind and the grasping mind don't allow us to enjoy the moment. They're good to reminisce sometimes. It's good to reflect on the past. But we don't want to do it all the time because there's people who live in that, right? And we don't want to be so focused on the future that we can't enjoy the moment either. So I just want to inject here that I think it's important that we be aware of our thoughts and our emotions so we can stay in the present moment. We find joy and peace in the present moment. And I'm super excited. I'm certified to teach this week. I'm also in a 6-week program getting certified for the second level of some 44 practices that guide people through developing their character and training their body to feel safe and quieting their mind and learning how to really be more magnetic in their speaking and in their life. And it's super. It's really excited. So all of this character topic is really my passion. So go ahead, tell us more about emotions.
So with your emotions, right? Emotions are tied to our beliefs. I mean, at the end of the day, they're tied to the beliefs because what we believe to be true about the world controls how we feel about it.
Absolutely.
And interestingly enough, it's the feelings that we are really afraid of. It's not the information or the facts about the world. It's the feelings about the world that people are scared of. People who are scared of life are scared of how they feel about life. Okay. Getting stuck is based on what we have learned in the past. That's why so many people keep reliving the past, that Mind movie, and it's stuck on that one reel, kind of like, what was the name of that movie? Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
where Bill Murray, he went to sleep the next day, it was the same day, just repeating, and we allow that in our minds to continue with those mind movies. And so it's really important that when we find ourselves in this state and we can't think of anything else, think about something better. Think about a solution to the problem. Think about what's beyond the problem, because sometimes the problem is temporary. But if we don't see it as temporary and we see it as long term, then that's where we get stuck. And I really wish that more people would look at the bigger picture of things.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think that's true. I think at times we all shut ourselves off from feeling more joy and more pleasure in our lives and even in our bodies. But sometimes this shutdown process is a conscious feeling that most of the time it's unconscious. Sometimes we choose to shut down, and sometimes it's kind of an unconscious process. Mm-hmm. And before we know it, we're doing something that limits our joy and our pleasure. Mm-hmm. Something usually involves us moving our thoughts into the past, into the future, where that's where the fear and anxiety come from. I mean, if you think about it, if you ask you how you're doing right now, and if you were in the moment, you probably would say everything's okay in this moment. Mm-hmm. But if you start worrying about the past or the future, that's where that fear and anxiety comes from. So here's some examples of different ways we hit an upper limit of joy. See if this holds true for you. When you're ready to embrace your dream, or you're really moving forward in your business, something's really exciting happening, all of a sudden you've maxed out on your capacity of what your subconscious thinks that you can handle. And all of a sudden negative thinking starts creeping in, right? A little voice in your head that says, I can't do that. Or we have a sense of waiting for the other shoe to drop, like I talked about before. Something terrible is going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe you get emotional pain in your body that gets activated. You feel sad, you get depressed, you get angry, or you're really defensive about something. It just sucks the joy out. Maybe the physical pain stops us from moving forward. It's like clockwork. Every time you're on the verge of breaking free, you get a back pain, you get back problems. Something kicks in, right? Your asthma blows out. But if you ever notice, it's a pattern. And then what about becoming easily distracted? That shiny object syndrome. You're having a hard time staying focused with your intentions. You were making so much progress, the momentum was going, and then all of a sudden you lost the clarity. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's situations that arrive around you that takes your energy and your attention away from what you're focused on. For example, maybe family members become sick, or you have to look after them, or it's, you can't do your own self-care because everybody around you is suddenly demanding your attention.
Yep.
So other people may say things like, you can't do that, or this is impossible, and that could also steal your joy. But when this happens, it's important that we reassure ourselves that we're safe. We're safe in the moment, and we can expand. Mm-hmm. I talked about getting certified this week in Art of Feminine Presence. It's the work based on Rachel Jane Groover. And it's fabulous because it walks us through exercises on how to manage this upper limits of joy and how to really break through that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I applaud you for going through and getting certified in 44 different principles. I think that's pretty amazing. That shows your dedication to the craft. That's awesome. One of the things that really torques my jaw is when people tell me that I can't do something.
Rightly so.
When you tell me that I can't do something, by golly, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to do it, even if it means I'm killing myself to get it done.
And you are persistent.
That I am. I'm very persistent. And it's funny because as I've been going through these different studies and I've been preparing for our discussions, I really enjoy doing the prep work for our discussions so that we can bring really good value and information to our audience. As I started really looking deeply into the 7 levels of character, which I'm not the brainchild behind this. The brainchild behind this is my mentors, Paul Martinelli and Roddy Galbraith from the Empowerment Mentoring Community. They're the ones that initially put this out, and the way they broke it down was really amazing. And I know that I'm not going to do it the same justice that they did, but I'm going to do my best. And it actually comes from As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. That is one of my favorite books, and it's such a short read. Like, you can read it in like a half a day if you really wanted to. If you're flying somewhere, get it, buy it, read it on the plane. It will change your mind. I really encourage you to do that. And you can ask me, feel free to drop me a line and ask me about it, because it's something that I also teach and I'm very passionate about it. So what we're looking at when we're looking at the 7 levels of character, we're looking at where our emotions are. This is where we get stuck or where we get unstuck. Each level has a corresponding emotional tendency. So it's about how you see yourself and how you see God sees you, right? Sometimes when we're not doing something right, we'll immediately, oh God, you don't like me, you're mad at me, especially when things are going wrong, right? When things aren't going the way you want them to go, you're thinking, oh God, don't punish me enough. I'm ready to do something different. And so the lowest level is what I call the lazy level. It's where you've got very low energy. You're not positive about anything. You don't see anything positive about life. You're that humdrum, oh, woe is me. Everything is terrible. Nobody likes me and things of that nature. And you don't see yourself getting out of the situation. And what you do is you start behaving in a selfish manner. And that selfishness is what impacts other people.
And this could also be somebody in depression, right?
It could be somebody in depression. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And then the next level is the runaway. And so I'm starting at the bottom. So the lowest level is what I call the lazy person. And then you've got the person that runs away. I was the runaway for many years, like especially after my divorce happened. I ran away, like I literally ran away from life. And I remember my son, because we were looking for a place for him to live. He told one of the potential landlords that we were looking at. He said, "Yeah." He said, "Normally it's the kids that leave the house. The birds fly the coop." He said, "But no, my mom is flying the coop this time." And I was running away because I had so much anger, so much guilt. I don't know that I had any hatefulness, but I had a lot of guilt and I had a lot of anger, and I just chose to run away. It was easier for me to run away. And sometimes we run away by just crawling in bed and staying in bed. And I've done that before too, where I'm just binge watching Netflix. Like, it's what you do when you're running away, because you think that everything is hopeless and you believe that God really truly has something out for you. He does not like you at all.
Of course, that's a perception, because God does always love you.
God loves all of us, right? But when you're in that moment,
layers of character we're talking about, right? That the lowest levels up to the highest levels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And when you're at this level, when you're at the lowest level, when you're at the lazy level and the runaway level, you really feel like you are no good. Like nothing good ever happens to you. And you believe that God doesn't want anything to do with you, because you're stuck in that emotional pattern, that the feelings of self-pity and woe is me.
Right.
And so once you get past that, then you go into the quitter stage. So this is where now you're filled with grief, because now you're regretting everything that ever happened in life, everything that you ever did. You're just filled with so much grief. And you tend to roll over and cry out. Now, this is when you're like, oh God, somebody help me. And you're helpless and you feel that God doesn't care about you. And so this is the person that decides they don't want to do it anymore. And so this is where we run into the suicidal people when they're wanting to quit, right? Because what's the point in living anymore? And if any of you feel in a suicidal moment, please call the suicidal hotline. Because there are people there to help. I mean, you can call me. I will be more than happy to talk to you and help you get through your situation. The quitter, it's been said that the quitter basically has the victim mentality. And we talked about this in our show either last week or the week before, when we were talking about the safe people. We were talking about that victim mentality with the quitters. So as you start to climb out of these levels, you start to realize that, you know what, maybe I am in control of my life. Maybe you met somebody that just really changed your life for the better. They gave you some kind of nugget of information that just woke you up. Like you just went boop.
It's
I,
up.
I
We did share something that woke them up. No, I'm kidding. It could be anywhere. It could be a book, could be a friend, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it could be anybody. You could read something, hear something, and it just wakes you up. That's what happened to me. I woke up. Like it was like, you know what? This is not the life that I want. This is not how I was raised. Well, I was raised a whole different way. We'll get that into another show. But it's like now you start worrying about stuff. That's the next level. Now you start worrying because now you're going, oh my gosh, I know I want something, but I don't know what it is. All the stuff that I've done in the past, how are people going to forgive me? How are people going to look at me differently? Am I really going to be able to make a difference? Am I really going to be able to have people listen to me and help me get through things? And you start to see that God is disappointed in you. Okay, you start to think, oh God, I'm so sorry. I disappointed you. I strayed away from your teachings. I strayed away from everything. And so you just really feel that that God is disappointed in you. But we all know that He doesn't get disappointed in us. Once you get past, thank God, once you get past the warrior level, you move into the superiorist level. Okay. And at the superiorist level, you start to get angry, right? And now you're getting angry at yourself. You're getting angry at yourself because you allowed yourself to get too big. You allowed yourself to get used. You allowed yourself to get played. You allowed yourself to feel the way that you felt. You allowed yourself to spend all your money and not save. Like you're just getting angry with yourself for not trying sooner. Um, and and then you get prideful because now you're like, I don't want any help. Nope. And that's one of the things. I'm not a superiorist. At least I don't consider myself a superiorist. However, I have a hard time asking for help. Like I have a really hard time asking for help on anything. And I've had many friends that have like gotten in my face about it, and I still don't ask for help.
Yeah, it's a growth area. A lot of people have that challenge.
Yeah.
I think all the character levels you're describing so far, they're all behaviors that really come out of reactions, right? They're not responses to life, they're reactions. And I think we can agree that life isn't about what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you that counts, right? Yeah. And this is where character comes in, right? These are the levels of character that you're describing. So I think it's really also important to point out that a lot of us run on subconscious of the programs that are inside of us. And so we might be a worrier, we might be lazy, we might be a superiorist. And some of those are just default modes that maybe it's a pattern you've picked up from your parents or the foster family that you live with or something along those lines, right? So you can wake up, as Mary Denise said, you can change this awareness of the beliefs that you're running on, and you can make a difference. And so in order to do that, though, we must become aware of those thoughts and emotions that are running inside of us and really taking over. And so we can train ourselves to recognize these behaviors that are victim mentalities and scarcity thinking, because they're very subtle and they'll creep in. And oftentimes we can't identify them by ourselves. We need somebody to speak life into us, right? And that's where coaching comes in. That's where Mary Denise or I or someone else might be able to work with you to help you really identify what is happening in your life. I do see that I'm kind of stuck. I do see that I feel like I'm a victim all the time. How do I get out of it? And when you're ready to make that growth step, that's really the time. Nobody can do it for you, but they can walk you through the process of identifying what are those subconscious beliefs that are going on in you right now. And you have the opportunity to shift your life, don't you? That's what we're talking about on the show, is digging from those horrible past traumas that you've had or something and shifting it into something positive, reframing it, and designing the life of your dreams.
Oh, yeah, definitely. When we stop feeling sorry for ourselves, once we stop being selfish and we stop being negative, that's when we become courageous. That's when we start to realize that we know that there's more to life. We start to believe that we have something to give. We can change our life. We can change the narrative. I tell people all the time, you don't like it, change the narrative.
Yeah, I like that.
Just change the narrative. You're the author of your own story, so change it. And that's what you have to do. And you have to tell yourself to do one thing. And that is to say, if I can just do one thing to change the circumstances in my life, maybe everything's going to get better. And when you do that one thing to change one circumstance and it gets better, you do another one. It's baby steps, and you just keep going and you keep going until you reach where you want to go. But you never stop striving for more.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. It's like we start focusing on giving instead of taking. And
Mm-hmm.
like you and I are here tonight giving away our experience and our education on what we've learned. And we're hoping that we can make a difference in the lives of others. So when other people start becoming aware, these things happen. It's one step at a time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so once you get to this level, when you start to realize that you can change things and that your life can be more than what you have it at right now, that's when you become a planner. That's another level in the 7 levels of character. And as a planner, you're thinking, you're planning, you're seeing the future, right? You start visualizing what you want that future to look like. You start looking at where you want to be. You start becoming a problem solver instead of a problem maker. You become reasonable and you believe that God is wise. This is when you start looking at your growth. This is where the growth is actually happening. This is where you're intentional. You're just intentional. And if you're not intentional, then you don't really, you're lost. You don't have a path to go on. What do you think?
Yeah, so they start to become a problem solver instead of a problem maker, right? Yeah, and it just dawned on me that all the levels up to this planner point seem to be very angry people, very,
Mm-hmm.
very serious all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But as we move up the scale of the character, our emotions start to rise to a higher level of frequency, right? Because we talked about being spiritual beings and everything being energy before on our on prior episodes of our show. And I think that's important as to what you're talking about here, that all of these levels of character, you started at a very low level, right? Lazy, and you moved on up, and those become higher vibrational frequencies in our life on the spiritual scale. And so, how many people do you know, if you seriously think about it, who are really well off on the higher levels that you're going to talk about? Their joy level is much higher, isn't it? Than somebody who's at the bottom level. And you think about radio waves or sound waves or frequencies. They're like total different places in the frequency scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just think it's important that as a planner, you're just starting to become aware that you may still be a little bit serious, but you're starting to become a little bit more lighthearted, right? It's not as heavy, but it's something good. So I think this is great. I think you're doing a great job. So I think it's important that we recognize these levels.
Yeah. So
from the very low level to the high level, right?
Yeah, exactly. So Andela Moore posted earlier that the present moment is more than enough. The present moment is more than enough. And it really is. Like, you don't need to go. You just need to be in that moment and just enjoy the moment for what it is. So thank you, Andela, for posting that. We really appreciate it.
Very nice.
I didn't see the comment earlier.
You did now. That counts.
I did now. So,
yeah.
So one of the last 2 levels are, and this is where you really want to be. This is the ultimate level, the final level. And this is where faith steps in, and now you're submissive to the will of God. Like, you are actually, meditating, you're doing what he would have you to do. You're following your purpose, right? And so the 6th level is the lover level. This is where you love more, you're more loving, you're not attached to the problems or to the how. And so often, we get stuck on the how. Well, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
Well, how am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to, how do you expect me to move from here to there? How do you expect this? We don't need to concern ourselves with the how. We just need to trust in God, and we need to find him to be loving and in the final state, right?
That sounds good.
In the final state, once we get to that point in the final state, now we've got a joyful soul, right? And this is where I aspire to be all the time. I aspire to always be at the joyful soul. And this is where the money's at. Okay. This is when you're joyful. You have unconditional love for yourself. If we could have everybody unconditionally love themselves, do you know how many problems in the world we would solve?
A lot.
A lot of them. Yes. A whole lot of them.
Hard if people don't understand the concept.
Yeah, and this is when you become accepting, okay? You're forgiving. You see yourself as perfect because you have a oneness with God. This is when you sit still and you can actually hear him talking to you and giving you guidance and letting you know what the next step is and what you should do. And as you mentioned, Candace May, people that are in that 1% of the wealth, they are in a better place because they're able to use their money to help other people because they're not attached to it. There's a misnomer that people that are wealthy are, rude and obnoxious. And I used to think that people that were wealthy just, they didn't care about anybody else. But I have met so many people and been around so many people that are in that 1%, and that's not at all how they are. Like, they are the most giving and loving people that I've ever met. And so,
that's the key.
I'm sorry.
I said that's the key too, to surround yourself by people who are loving and in that mindset that you're striving to be or are at versus the lower levels, because you're going to be like the 5 people closest to you, right?
Absolutely. And so it's really important to remember that we've all been through each of these levels. Some of them stay stuck in one level. Some of us go up and then we slide right back down. And then we climb our way back up.
Or you have a character in a certain area of your life that's at a certain level, and then in other areas of your life, maybe it's at a higher level. Yeah.
Sometimes we climb out of that negative aspect and make our way to the space in between courage and faith. And sometimes, like I said, we slide back. It all depends on how you perceive what is happening in your life, right? It's all about perception.
Yeah. I think it's also important to point out that there's different levels of character in the different areas of our life. Like I started to say that, but ideally we want to integrate them all. We don't want to live in compartmentalized sections, I suppose. But some people do segment their life, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Something to be aware of.
Yep. So as you've listened to this conversation and you go back to listen to the replay, ask yourself, what level of character are you in today? Are you worried? Are you a joyful soul? Are you a planner? Where are you in that? And let me let you in on a little secret. And this is something that I learned the hard way, like the really, really hard way. And that is, what keeps us stuck is our perception. We perceive that people don't like us. We perceive that we're not doing something right. We perceive that we're not good enough. We perceive that the world is against us. Like, we have all these perceptions that just really mess with our head. And so please understand, you have to change your perceptions, and you need to break those invisible boundaries that keep you in that one area.
Yeah. So perceptions aren't really the truth, right? Okay. Good.
Yep, absolutely. So do we have anything else, Candace May, that you want to talk about?
I think it's just important to say, if the longer you hang out in those lower levels, the runaway, the quitter, the worrier, and the superiorist, it's going to take you longer to reach your dreams, right? So the goal is to get out of those lower levels as much as possible. You can't necessarily jump from the lowest level to a planner, maybe, but you move up gradually, and that's what it's all about, taking those steps. A little bit more every day, something better today than yesterday, and you'll get there.
Yep, absolutely. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. Candace May, I've really enjoyed this conversation with you. To our audience, please let us know what your biggest moment was, your takeaway from listening to today's topic. And as always, let us know what you want for us to discuss, because we're here for you. We're not here for us. We're here to help you solve a problem. So what problem can we solve for you? So until next time, unshackle your voice to be seen and heard with confidence.
Absolutely. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.